I think it's fair to say that this is a big story and a conversation that a lot of Manchester United fans have been wanting to have. So many of you, I'll be honest, don't like a back three system. Why not play a 4-3-3 is a conversation that's been had a lot. I didn't really think that we'd be having this conversation, but Laurie Whitwell from The Athletic is reporting that Ruben Amorim is not only thinking about doing it, thinking about changing during AFCON, but actually United have been preparing for it ahead of Bournemouth. Doesn't mean that we necessarily see it against Bournemouth. Maybe it's a post Ahmad and Mbeumo leaving. I'm going to run through the news. You can let me know what you think in the comments below, but I know this is a conversation that a lot of you have been wanting to have. Now, this was Ruben Amorim speaking ahead of the Bournemouth game, saying, look, not just Šeško being out, but with everything that's coming up with Ahmad and Mbeumo and the players that are leaving for AFCON, it might be that we have to adapt the way that we are playing. And now Laurie Whitwell has said this. So I'm going to run through the article and you can let me know what you think in the comments below. Saying that Ruben Amorim is looking at adapting the formation to more like a 4-3-3. Told players ahead of Wolves that a change will come and work has since been done at Carrington in that shape. Let's run through the article here itself and scroll down to the most important bit. Ruben Amorim addressing his players before facing Wolves and telling them that a change was coming, but people felt he was hinting towards a tactical shift. And then we go down here. The impending removal, of course, of three players, Ahmad, Mbeumo and Mazraoui, our entire right-hand side. One option, it appears, will be a move to a formation that more often looks like a 4-3-3. And according to sources close to the club, a significant amount of time during training sessions in preparation of the Bournemouth game has been dedicated to lining up in that shape. That can in part be attributed to United practicing pressing schemes, with Amorim working on a 4-3-3 defensive system, so a different shape in and out of possession, which United have done under Amorim before. We used a 4-4-2 in pre-season. But this is the big one, people. All right? This is something that a lot of United fans have been calling for. The fact that they feel that a 4-3-3 is better suited to the players that we've got. Now, immediate reaction to this, you're probably looking at our best wingers there. I say probably. You're definitely looking at our best wingers there. What I would say here is I think Ruben Amorim partly has been reticent and hesitant to shift away from his systems. He's already, by the way, said this in press conferences. He goes, well, if I do it for the wrong reasons, or if I'm under pressure and it forces the change and it kind of takes power away from me, I kind of feel like he's got a little bit of a free hit here, in the sense that if he does change, and Laurie Whitwell's reporting that he absolutely has been preparing United to tune. Now, this might actually happen at Villa and Newcastle and Wolves again at Old Trafford in a few weeks' time. But he can use the excuse of AFCON coming up. Ahmad and Mbeumo leaving and Mazraoui leaving and our entire right-hand side shifting and changing. So instead of it being me going against my own principles as a manager in terms of the system that I like, I'm tweaking and changing because of the players that we have available and the players that we don't have available. So in that sense, it's more of a free hit for him. Now, one thing that you'll all be thinking straight away, and it's kind of the first thing I thought, is you play the midfield three, you get Kobbie in that team. The reason Kobbie is not playing is because we're playing with a midfield two and Bruno is way ahead of him in the pecking order and basically is kind of untouchable, really. And that's why Kobbie's not playing. Now, I don't think this will be United's starting 11 against Bournemouth, but conceivably, let's say United were to line up in a 4-3-3 tonight, what could it be? I think it could be something like that. I mean, Martinez, I don't think will start either. But just hypothetically, what could the strongest starting 11 be against Bournemouth if United were to line up there tonight? You go Shaw as a traditional. Who's sod thinking about that? On paper, it just opens up other questions, I suppose. But a 4-3-3, for a lot of people, is something that you want to see. Do we have the wingers for it? Questionable. We sold most of them. Do we have the quality of the full? Screw that. This is just, it's a big shift. And it may well just be, as I said, Ruben Amorim not using the excuse of AFCON, but realising that, mate, if you play without Ahmad and Mbeumo, and Mazraoui, by the way, down that right-hand side, and you stick to the back five system, you're going to probably be playing Delo there. Or Dorgu, maybe. You might play Mason Mount as one of the inside forwards. You might potentially play Bruno further forward and then Kobe in a deeper role alongside Casemiro. Conceivable. All of those are conceivable. But United have been preparing in a 4-3-3. Would that mean that United would go after Semenyo in January? Would that be a complete shift away towards a 4-3-3? Or would it be something that United would use during AFCON, and then when Mbeumo, Ahmed and Mazraoui come back, is that something that we would shift back towards it? At the very least, United have been preparing and looking at alternatives. And that itself can only be considered a good thing. Maybe it's going to be United lining up in a 4-3-3 in possession versus out of possession. I don't know the ins and outs of it. Couldn't you play in as a winger? Hey, look, I don't want to get into looking at the formations and looking at who best plays here or who best plays there, because I think that's a whole conversation for a whole nother video. But I think the fact of the matter is I didn't expect to be having this conversation. I didn't really think that switching the system was something that was ever going to be a conversation that we had. And this is something I actually agree with Ruben Amorim on. The system is nowhere near as important as how you play in said system, how you approach the game. We could play in a 4-3-3 and we could play at 1 bloody mile an hour, and it won't actually make a jot of difference to how United actually play. It might change the overall shape and the positions of where we are on the pitch, but will it actually impact whether or not we win that game of football? More so than whether or not the players play like they did in the second half, I suppose, against Wolves, or the second half against Crystal Palace, versus the first half against Crystal Palace. The perfect game to use that as an example of. Same system, completely different halves. Yeah, sure, Crystal Palace were a bit dead. But this is music to my ears, I think. We're going to have to change during the period where our best player and our second best player and our entire right-hand side shifts. We don't have the squad depth to deal with Ahmad and Mbeumo and Mazraoui leaving and expecting any sort of similar results or creative output on that right-hand side without them. You just can't do it. You really can't do it. Whether you play Dello, I've already ran through the options there. What do you think about this? As I said, this is news that a lot of United fans have been wanting to hear. Maybe we'll see it against Bournemouth. Maybe we'll see it against Villa. Maybe we won't see it. Maybe United have just been trialling this in Carrington and nothing's going to happen. But something's got to shift if we're going to somehow cope without our best players during AFCON and expect to win games against the likes of Villa and Newcastle, which will not be easy. You can let me know what you think in the comments below, but this is big news.